The ratio per capita of white to black drug users in the U.S. is roughly 1 to 1, but the sentencing rate of whites to blacks for drug possession is 1 to 10. The amount of crack you need to get a 5-year mandatory minimum is 5 grams, but for powder cocaine it's 500 grams, which is interesting once you learn that 75% of those arrested for powder cocaine are white, and 90% of those arrested for crack are African American. Can you say systematic racism? Latinos are incarcerated at a comparable rate to blacks if you factor in Immigration and Naturalization Service, detention facilities. Asian and Pacific Islander incarceration is small but fast-growing, and Native Americans have the highest incarceration rate of any group, which is effed up considering that they somehow managed to get along without any prisons for thousands of years before the rest of us got here. Leave aside for a moment that police and judges aren't always fair. Leave aside that prisons break up families. Leave aside that prisons incubate disease, not just AIDS, but TB, hepatitis C, and then what will we hear about tomorrow? Leave aside that prison trains people to be criminals. Leave aside that they send people back out into the world with records that make it almost impossible to get any other job. Never mind what prison does to people mentally. Leave aside that the prison boom has forced dramatic budget cuts for schools, colleges, after-school programs, drug rehab, job training, Head Start, affordable housing, legal aid, every social program that keep poor people from being vacuumed into prison's terrible domain. The annual cost of incarcerating a prisoner for 1 year is enough to put about 7 people through community college or drug rehab. Never mind that California has built 21 prisons since 1984 and only 1 university. Never mind that children as young as 14 can be tried as adults and locked up with adults. Never mind the alarming growth of prison labor and prison privatization, which means that Wall Street is directly profiting from the prison industry. Never mind that the 13th Amendment outlaws slavery, except in prison. So it literally is slavery. But never mind that, because if we don't do something soon, it's going to get a lot worse. He goes on to say, we treat others the same way we treat ourselves. For every road and zoo and gated community and fence and lock and alarm system and prison we build, we are installing another prison cell in our hearts. So it makes me wonder, would my father's life be a little different if he had more spiritual tools at hand from the start? What if he had children's classes and he learned about responsibility, taking care of your responsibilities like your children, at a young age, no matter what happened to him, with all that he was going through from being thrown to foster home, maybe he had a more stronger support system, prayer gatherings to go to, where he just felt a spiritual connection with his community. Maybe he wouldn't be another statistic. I don't know. I'm going to talk a little bit about my mother now, who is a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. Thank God. 20 years. Go ahead, Mom. So proud of you. Amazing woman. All that you've been through. Truly amazing. But she's a lucky one. She's one of the lucky ones. Granted, we're in a different place, and as she mentioned earlier, we're growing and healing through so much that we've been through. But the truth is, I wonder also, would we have went through all the hardships? Not all. It's not like if you tap into spiritual tools that all your problems go away. That's not my point here. I'm just saying that they're a great guidance, and I think that they could have an amazing effect and power on how we deal with our issues, what we do then. And maybe we would make some different choices and decisions. But I wonder if she had also more of a support system spiritually when she was younger from her community, would she have also tapped into another spiritual tool, which I didn't mention earlier, but that is our spiritual laws. So many people, and I know these days a lot of people are really have this thing about organized religion, and they're like, I'm spiritual, and that's great. I mean, the spiritual part came from religion, but we won't get into that right now. But basically, I wonder if she would have also had more of the strength to abide by these laws that are our protection and guidance for ourselves. Not to, stop us from having our freedom it's just like we have laws in life in general. We have traffic laws. If there was no traffic laws, everybody would be driving around crazy, crashing into each other. No, I'm gonna go, oh, really, I thought I was in my turn, you know, it's just crazy. We have laws for a reason. Maybe one person's a great driver, but someone else may not be. And if they're driving drunk, they deserve a ticket for that. You are putting my child and my family in danger. So I'm saying all that to say that, you know, Sarah might be real good with her one drink on Friday. Real good. Like social parties, hanging out, and that's just a part of her life, and she's great, and it doesn't stop her from doing anything else, and she's functioning, and everyone's wonderful. And then David over here comes home, he's abusing his family, he's beating his wife, he's losing his job, his whole family and whole world, he's basically losing everything because he has an addiction that he cannot control. And, you know, Christianity talks a lot about personal salvation. You're Christians all the time, believe in Christ, save your soul, and that's important. We all need to take care of ourselves. We need to spiritually tap into whatever we need to do to get ourselves in alignment. But as was mentioned earlier, Baha'i says, don't just love your neighbor more than you love yourself. Baha'i said it's not just time for a personal salvation, it's time for a universal salvation. It's time for you to be responsible not only for yourselves, but for everyone. Which means that if David is having a hard time, be an example for him. Be an example for those who can't get through their addiction. These laws, again, they're a guidance and a support for us all, because we're all connected, and we have to care about everyone, not just about what's going on right here in our little space. So these are some tools that we have. Prayer, reading the glorious writings from all our major faiths, being of service, abiding by these beautiful laws, and you know, there are different ways in which Baha'is around the world are trying to actively use these tools for our community. And we welcome you to join in any of those with us. I would like to close with a quote from the Baha'i writings that goes like this. Every age has its own problem, and every soul its particular aspiration. The remedy the world needed in its present-day afflictions can never be the same as that which a subsequent age may require. Be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age you live in, and center your deliberations on its exigencies and requirements. We can well perceive how the whole human race is encompassed with incalculable afflictions. We see it languishing on its bed of sickness, sore tired and disillusioned. Incline your ears to the sweet melody of this prisoner. Arise and lift up your voices, that happily they that are fast asleep may be awake.